Go live.
All right. When do these go out?
Yeah, I can just sign it anywhere.
I'm gonna wait. All right.
Okay.
It's got the airport on it.
Good evening, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the regular Village Board meeting for April 1st, 2019. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Simpson, roll call, please.
Trustee Kruger? Present. Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Vito?
Here.
Trustee Papantos? Present. President Horker?
Here. You have before you the minutes for the meeting of March 4th, 2019. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Papantos.
Second.
Second, Trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos? Yes. President Horker?
Yes. You also have before you the minutes of the meeting for March 18th, 2019. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Lang. Second,
Second.
Trustee Papantos. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kruger?
Abstain.
Trustee abstain? Oh, I'm sorry.
I wasn't there.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Mr. Svandelos, do we have any changes to the agenda?
We do not.
Clerk Simpson, proclamations, please.
National Crime Victims' Rights Week, April 7th through the 13th of 2019. In 1982, the President's Task Force of Victims of Crime envisioned a national commitment to a more equitable and supportive response to victims. This commemorative week celebrates the energy, perseverance, and commitment that launched the victims' rights movement, inspired its progress, and continues to advance the cause of justice for crime victims. Incorporating communities, existing experts, and trusted sources of support into efforts to fully serve survivors will develop a criminal justice system response that is truly accessible and appropriate for all victims of crime. Serving victims and rebuilding their trust restores hope to victims and survivors, as well as supports thriving communities. Engaging a broader array of healthcare providers, community leaders, faith organizations, educators, and businesses can provide new links between victims and services that improve their safety, healing, and access to justice. Honoring the rights of victims, including the rights to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect, and working to meet their needs rebuilds their trust in the criminal justice and social service systems. National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit to ensuring that all victims of crime, especially those who are challenging to reach or serve, are offered culturally and linguistically accessible and appropriate services in the aftermath of crime. The Village of Wheeling is hereby dedicated to strengthening victims and survivors in the aftermath of crime, building resilience in our communities and our victims' responders, and working for justice for all victims and survivors. Patrick Horker, President of the Village of Wheeling, do hereby proclaim the week of April 7th through the 13th, 2019 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week in the Village of Wheeling, reaffirm this village's commitment to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crime during Crime Victims' Rights Week and throughout the year, and express our sincere gratitude and appreciation for those community members, victim service providers, and criminal justice professionals who are committed to improving our response to all victims of crime so that they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson. Ms. Weiser, Sherry Weiser. No?
Thank you.
Sherry is the person charged with taking care of the first. You're the one that gets to see the victims first. It's a burden and a huge responsibility, and we thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
No problem. All right, tonight we are also recognizing our volunteers. We have we have a lot of people who volunteer to keep our village moving smoothly, and most of the time they go largely unrecognized. Everything from the congregate dining to the Citizens Police Patrol. There are many volunteers who donate their time to see to it that the village has help in the areas that would otherwise, have a void. We would like to take a few minutes to recognize those who have helped throughout the year, the volunteers. As with last year, the certificates thanking you are in the hallway under the pictures of the past presidents. We're going to read all of your names. Please raise your hand when your name is read. And again, personally, thank you for the service that you've given to our community. And there will be a little intermission with sandwiches and cookies as soon as we're done with this part. All right?
Did you want the proclamation first?
Sure.
Okay, should I read?
I talk too much. Please
I read
the
it?
Yes, please.
National Volunteer Week, April 7th through the 13th, 2019. The Village of Wheeling is proud of the volunteers who not only serve the community with pride and commitment, but also help to make sure that the community is a great place to live, work, and raise a family. The entire community can inspire, equip, and mobilize people to take action that changes the world. Volunteers can connect with local community service opportunities through hundreds of community service organizations. Individuals and communities are at the center of social change, discovering their power to make a difference. During this week, all over the nation, service projects will be performed and volunteers recognized for their commitment to service. The giving of oneself in service to another empowers both the giver and the recipient. Experience teaches us that government by itself cannot solve all of our nation's social problems. Our country's volunteer force of over 63 million is a great treasure. Volunteers are vital to our future as a caring and productive community and nation. Patrick Horker, President of the Village of Wheeling, does hereby proclaim April 7th through the 13th, 2019 as National Volunteer Week in Wheeling, and urges fellow citizens to volunteer in their respective communities, since by volunteering and recognizing those who serve, we can come together to make a difference.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson. Trustee Kruger, would you begin, and we'll just proceed down the dais?
I'd be happy to. Sue Allen, Ellen Barnes, Lee Becker, Steve Bierlich, Linda Birnbaum, Tatiana Blanova, Linda Bressett, Frank Bressett, Sandra Bressler, Carrie Ira Brown, Marty Chapman, Deneen Coronios Shannon, Michael Crawley, Jeffrey Creech, Marina Doherty, Merle Feldman, Barbara Fork, Steve Freed, and Kevin Fry.
And Barbara Kerger, David Gerstetter, Vivian Gerstetter, Betty Giambrown, Shizawa Gorka, Ron Gramston, David Greenberg, Sherry Greenberg, Howard Grubman, Gregory Grunin, Cynthia Hahn, Marilyn Hams, Pat Hawkins, Claudia Horker, Steve Horker, Don Johnson, Gilder Juarez, and Joe Callis.
Darlene Kaplan, Marshall Kaplan, Dolores Kelly, Sue Kim, Kenny Kim, and Yun Kim, Sandy Kipps, Michael Cohen, John Kolsak, Kenneth Kramer, Carol Lancelotti, Linda Landisberg, Anita Lowenstein, Ralph Mansfield, Marianne Marabella, Clifford Mazer, Gail Mayo, Pat Mazarka, and Desmond McDonald.
Christine Malone, Stephen Meyer III, Pat Miller, Sharon Moeller, Mike Moran, Amelia Moreno, Diane Muccianti, I don't know how they say it, George Muccianti, Linda Mueller, Michael Murphy, Sharon Murray, Mary Nalen, Marilyn Naples, Bianca Navedo, Tony Netnin, Tan Nguyen, Betty Obiadzi, and Cynthia Pace.
Al Palicki, Patty Perini, Jerome Podolsky, Jackie Portnoy, Steve Powers, Rob Reisman, Arlene Richmond, John Richmond, Pat Rizzo, Rosa Rosenberg, Steve Rosengard, Alicia Ross Rudolph, Ronald Rudolph, Jim Rafato, Ernestina Salgado, Griselda Sanchez, Marcello Sanchez, Vilma Sanchez, and Bruce Sembach.
Ira Sitnick, Paul Smith, Chung Jackie Song, Cindy Spadja-Mays, Jack Spadja-Mays, Bobby Spiegel, Marilyn Stark, Sue Stein, Carol Targan, Magdala Valaquez, Jack Velarde, Roberto Velarde, Fred Vasecki III, Ruth Weiser, Maria Woodruff, Robert Yeldenek, and Carol Jabrowski.
Thank you. Thank all of you. Thank you all very much.
President Horker, if I may, I know we're going to adjourn for some refreshments, but I would like to acknowledge our volunteers on the Chicago Executive Airport Board. There is a stipend involved in that position, so they're not listed as volunteers, but that certainly doesn't negate their effort in representing our community, and those people are Neil Katz, Vince Donahue, and Ray Lang. So thank you to them as well.
It is 6:42. Could I have a motion for a 10-minute recess for refreshments?
So moved.
Second?
Motion trustee Vogel, second trustee Kruger. All in favor?
Aye.
10 minutes, 6:52.
Okay.
Yeah. Although today wasn't
I need a motion to reconvene into regular session.
So moved.
Motion, trustee Kruger.
I'll second.
Second, trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, citizens' concerns and comments. And just as a reminder to the public, this is a time for citizens to make their comments and express concerns for the board to listen. Neither the board nor staff will be answering any questions. Clerk Simpson.
Members of the public may address the board with comments regarding only those items that are relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without consent of the board. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting. Mr. Zimmerman.
Thank you. Bear with me for a minute. I was just writing down some notes as I was coming here. Question I got is, what is the definition of accountable? I really wasn't sure myself, so I looked up in a dictionary. And accountable persons, organization, or institutions required or expected to be responsible, liable, and answerable. Subject or subjects obligated to report, explain, or justify something. My question to the board is, who is accountable for property owners that do not keep their properties up? I mean, in my neighborhood, there's a lot of properties that end up, they're really bad. They really are. There's a couple like behind the apartment buildings. Basically, the guys are scrappers. I understand people have to make a living. They go around and collect scrap metal. But they're storing it behind the buildings. The front yards aren't being taken care of. Who is accountable? I called the village one day to see if they had a CEO officer, code enforcement officer. There was one lady that answers, but I guess she's the only one. I'm not sure. I didn't do enough homework. But she said she really doesn't go out and about throughout the neighborhoods to see how Wheeling is looking. She says they only act about people who call with complaints. Then I was thinking about that, why Wheeling can't hire one or maybe two full-time officers. And I was thinking, if I remember right, the village paid, was it $800,000 for a piece of property down on Milwaukee Avenue? And it cost them another $300,000 or so to mitigate, the ground, the soil. That's $1.2 million. Now, if the village would pay, say, 2 CEO officers at $50,000, they would have a job for, 12, 14 years? I mean, within that time frame, they could really do a lot to help improve the looks of Wheeling. What the board and the village is doing right now at the town center, and all this, and Restaurant Row, that's fantastic. It really is. But it's the neighborhoods you guys need to get into. If anybody's interested, I'll be more than happy to take them a tour through my neighborhood. I live up on Mayor Avenue, so between Dundee, and Myerson, Picardy. There's a lot of people that walk around there. I do. I walk my dog and all that. But you look at some of these houses and these 6 flats, it's like nobody cares. And it really brings down the village. So I think the village needs to get on board with this and do something. Like I said, they're doing great things with the village. With that being said, everybody knows our property taxes they're getting pretty high. I have less than a 1,200 square foot house. I'm paying close to $7 grand. Now, when I go to sell my house, it's going to be hard. Not only because the way the area looks, our property values are going down, but then you're getting knocked over again with the high price of taxes. All we're doing is we're looking for help from the village to help beautify not only the village itself, but the neighborhoods. I think that would do a lot. I don't know. I mean, here in Wheeling, we should want people to buy here, to live here for what we have to offer, the way it looks, not just because housing is cheaper. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman.
Ms. Leamer?
Thank you. My name is Grace Limer, and I'm president of the Packard Place Homeowners Association. And I'm just here about the recent article that was in the paper about the D.R. Horton development west of Prairie Park. The indicated on there that was the developer had preference to have their traffic coming through Prairie Park with an emergency access off of Meadow Lane. And I understood that the article said that the majority of the trustees preferred to have full access from Meadow Lane. The concern there is because it would increase the traffic coming through Picardy area, Picardy Place and Meyerson Way. And we have quite a few small kids that, tell them to stay in the yard, but they do tend to kick the balls out in the streets and they don't watch for cars. I don't think there's many, if any, little kids in Prairie Park. And so the only thing that I would ask is when this issue comes before you again, to reconsider your thoughts as far as which egress you would have the new development in, because going off of Meadow Lane, having that full egress, you're going to filter all that traffic coming through on Picardy and Meyerson. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Vago?
Evening to the board. How are you?
Good.
I thought I'd just come on my own. I was trying to open a business here in Wheeling and having some issues, and just came actually to plead in front of the board and see if, now I know there can't be any questions or answers provided to me, but I just wanted to come and say, you know, I would really like to be within the village of Wheeling. I've gone through quite a bit of trying and through planning and development in the board a couple times, and really in a hardship position, put all my eggs in one basket, and there's a lot of things I would like to say as far as what my business is about, but I'm not here to show off or prove whom I am with, you know, a lot of different reasons. I've been in the auto repair business for a long, long time. I have great ratings, good backing, and just really just came out to say, you know, if there is something that I can do or try to do and I want to do, I would like if the board can possibly take it into consideration. And that's pretty much it. I thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Pellegrin.
Ms. Wilson?
Hi. Back in February, I believe it was the end of February, there was a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit against the village of Wheeling brought by the Edgar County Watchdogs. It was prompted first by me when I asked for electronic key card swipes for one 30-day period of time of our village manager. When you declined me, I handed it to the Edgar County Watchdogs. They asked for those records, and then we won in court in February, and your attorney asked to please defer a production date requirement to produce those records for a continuance. And that date was just a few days ago, earlier this week. And the judge gave a production date of April 2nd, Election Day. So I feel like this was a strategy to avoid informing the voters and the public of how well you're doing your job to supervise the village manager. Now, President Horker, you specifically I want to address. You've always been a big fan of Jean Ives. During her campaign, you had her signs all over your property at the entrance to your flower shop. And one thing that she stands for is she was always concerned about government inefficiency. And we have the public, when you notice the public of Mr. Spondilis's annual salary, they trust that salary, what we're getting in exchange is what is in our local municipal code, his specific job duties. So you codified his job duties, made it a matter of law, and then you contracted out internal investigations, which is something that's specific in his job duty. So we've got a combination of a guy who's not coming into work during the normal business hours, and, well, at least it's implied because you refuse to produce the records. To me, if you have nothing to hide, 30 days of what time he arrives at work, you should produce it immediately. So clearly there's something to hide. So if we have him coming in very late, and in addition to that, you're contracting out internal investigations of one employee complaint against another, it sounds like the quintessential stereotype of an inefficient government employee. Now, this graph that I have here is that the annual fees I've gotten from the monthly approval of bills of what we pay this law firm, this labor law firm. And as you can see, in the months before, the one peak we had was in, was a little bit higher in 14, I believe, when they were negotiating a contract with Public Works, I believe it was. And then there's this huge spike, 30,000, it's going up really big. And then, so this 1 year of investigation, that's how high the cost was. Okay, and then when the investigation was over, it's back down to just barely over $1,000. So, you know, these numbers are, you know, 29,000, 17,000, 11,000, so 23,000. In my mind, we need to add all those costs to his $200,000 a year salary, because to complete what you have told the public is his codified job description, to complete those duties, it's cost us far more than the $200,000. It's cost us that plus 11,000, 17,800, 29,000, 1,900, 9,400, 23,000, 9,700. You know, you need to really add that on, because that's what it's costing the taxpayer to complete the duties, you know, of the village manager. So I feel that if you are proud of what you've been doing as trustees in supervising him, that you should have had no reason to withhold this from the public. I think it's bad faith. And I think that if you've done a great job, that the voters will see that, and you shouldn't withhold stuff from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Not even going to bother. Okay. Staff reports. Mr. Janik.
Thank you. I'd like to remind the public and the board that on May 4th, there's going to be a recycling event at Public Works. We have this annually. It's both for paper and electronics. It'll be in the morning from 9 till 12. All Wheeling residents are invited. And in fact, if you are part of a Swank community as well, you can also come and deposit things, but you will need to show your identification. So it's May 4th in the morning, 9 to 12, electronics and paper shredding.
Thank you, Mr. Janik. Clerk Simpson, consent agenda.
Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items. 11A, resolution approving a publicly bid contract with Patriot Pavement Maintenance for the FY 2019 crack sealing program in the amount of $34,240. Item 11B, resolution accepting a public bid and approving a contract in the amount of $154,598.71 with Denler Incorporated for the high-density mineral bond asphalt treatment program. 11C, ordinance amending the Village of Wheeling's annual budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2018 and ending December 31st, 2018. 11D, resolution authorizing the village manager to approve a one-year renewal contract with Chicagoland Paving Contractors Incorporated for asphalt patching as part of the street improvement program in the amount not to exceed $40,000 in fiscal year 2019. Ordinance declaring as surplus and authorizing the disposal, recycling, sale, or auction of municipal property owned by the Village of Wheeling. Item 11F, resolution authorizing a Memorial Day parade from Wyland Road and Illinois Route 83 McHenry Road, traveling south to Lexington Drive and terminating at AmVest Post 66.
Unless we have any concerns or comments, I would be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Vogel.
Second.
Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, we have no old business, so new business. Clerk Simpson.
13A, resolution authorizing the village president and clerk to execute an intergovernmental agreement with PACE, the Suburban Bus Division of the Regional Transportation Authority.
Mr. Ferrolo.
Thank you, President Horker. On November 19th of 2018, the board approved Ordinance 5221, which approved a special use for a PACE ground transportation facility located within the Village of Wheeling. That special use required, as a condition, that PACE enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the village that establishes both the village and PACE's responsibilities relating to the design and installation of certain infrastructure improvements that would allow that facility to go forward, and also establish the responsibility of PACE to pay for those improvements up to $1,500,000. Before you is the intergovernmental agreement that accomplishes this. The improvements specifically that are addressed by the agreement are four. First, the restriping of Old Willow Road to provide a turning lane within the center of Old Willow Road. Second, the reconstruction and resurfacing of Old Willow Road from Wolf Road west to the Metro train tracks. The next improvement is the removal of the existing east access drive to the PACE property for that portion within the Old Willow Road right-of-way and restoration of that right-of-way. And finally, the improvements require the widening of the west half of Old Willow Road and Wolf Road at their intersection to allow for an increased vehicle turning radii, which may also include the installation of traffic signals depending upon IDOT's approvals. The IGA requires that the village engineer and design these improvements and bid the work. The village will contract for this work and actually pay for the work, with PACE reimbursing the village up to $1,500,000. I can answer any questions.
Any questions? My left.
Is anyone from PACE here? No, sir. No. Okay. Well, then I'll ask it out loud to the board and to anyone who then deals with PACE in the near future. You know, since it is transportation related, is there any leverage that PACE could help us with Metro, for instance? I know there's a number of things that we would like some relief on Dundee Road with the gates and so on. We talked about even perhaps having to move the station slightly if that was a possibility. Is there something that PACE can help us with, being transportation related, that they might be able to work with us now, since we're partners, if you would, in this project?
We can have that conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Any other questions? If there are no other questions, I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Lang, second, Trustee Papantos. Roll call, please.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Item number B.
13B, presentation regarding MS4 stormwater requirements by Baxter and Woodman.
Good evening, Council. Is the mic on?
Yes.
Very good, thanks. So each year, Illinois EPA requires, through the stormwater quality permit, that the village holds an update on the stormwater quality program so that the council can be informed, and the public as well, as upon the requirements, the practices that the village implements to protect water quality through its programs. And I'm going to provide that presentation tonight. So the permit refers to your storm drain system, the system of catch basins, roads, curbs, gutters, pipes that collect your stormwater and discharge it to our local waterways as the MS4 system, so the municipal separate storm sewer system. It's designed and used for collecting and conveying only stormwater to primarily Buffalo Creek here in the village, which is eventually tributary to the Des Plaines River and downstream water bodies. That's your owned and operated system by the village, and we're not talking about the sewer system or the wastewater system or the combined wastewater system. This is just the separate stormwater system that drains only stormwater to those water bodies. When stormwater hits our ground surfaces and different surfaces throughout the village, it can pick up a lot of what we call pollutants or debris that we try not to get to excessive levels within our local water bodies. Things like sediment, dirt, debris, suspended solids, nutrients like phosphorus or nitrogen like we have in our fertilizers, and pesticides, as toxins could get into our waterways as well from our runoff. Heavy metals from outdoor metal storage, brake pads degrading, every other metal thing we have outside. Bacteria from waste that aren't managed properly can get into our waterways. Detergents, if not handled properly, in outdoor washing, oil and grease from many different sources, and then just general trash and debris that we see on the land surfaces can wash into our storm drains. So this permit authorizes the discharge of stormwater by the village to those waterways. It also authorizes some non-stormwater discharges to your storm drain system, like your hydrant flushing water, irrigation water, fire flows. And it authorized controlled construction site stormwater runoff too. So construction sites that the village would own throughout the village. It authorizes discharge of those stormwater runoff from those sites. The permit requires best management practices to be implemented to be protective of water quality and all of the activities that the village performs to the maximum extent practicable. And I'll go over some of those requirements. So IEPA administers this MS4 permit, or the stormwater quality permit, in the state of Illinois. It goes by many names. It's the Phase 2 general permit, or your ILR 40 general permit, or your stormwater quality permit, or your MS4 permit. It's got many names. Not alone as a holder of this permit, over 440 municipalities and agencies throughout the state are complying with the same permit that you are. And it's issued on a 5-year duration, or a 5-year renewal period. The village has produced a stormwater management plan, which is a permit requirement that describes how the village complies with the numerous rules within the permit to be protective of water quality. Describes the responsible parties or the departments within the village that implement different parts of the permit requirements. And it really contains your commitments and your program administration towards the program. The 6 primary areas of the permit requirements are these: public education and outreach, public involvement and participation, which is what we're doing tonight, illicit discharge detection and elimination, finding illicit connections to your storm drain system or illicit dumping or discharges, construction site stormwater control and post-construction stormwater management for new development, and then lastly, pollution prevention or good housekeeping for all of your public works crews and operations out in the field doing your municipal operations to keep the village running. Best management practices have been established for all of these different program areas by the village. So, like I said, every 5 years this permit has to be renewed, and to do that the village submits a notice of intent to IEPA, and it's the intent of the next 5 years of program implementation. So it's sort of the commitment document. That stormwater management plan I mentioned is the how you do those things to be protective of water quality as a village, and then each year an annual report goes into IEPA. These are all required to be on your website, the last 5 years of annual reports, your NOI of program commitments, and your stormwater management plan, and they are there for the public to review. A lot of the permit requires training requirements for village staff, and there are several topics that village maintenance staff have to be trained on, like parks and open space maintenance, operation of yards and municipal practice such as snow disposal, de-icing, stormwater management system maintenance, how flood control projects can impact water quality, green infrastructure controls and maintenance, and then recognizing hazards with illicit discharges and connections. So each year, annual training is provided to village staff on how to be protective of water quality and doing the things that they do to keep the village running. So for questions or comments about the stormwater quality program, the Public Works Department can be contacted at 847-279-6900. And there's several documents and information on the Public Works website as well about this program. And locally, the things that we're most concerned about for Buffalo Creek or for the Des Plaines River are excessive nutrients. That could be from fertilizers such as phosphorus or nitrogen. With more nutrients in the water body than it naturally would have, you'll get excessive algae growth, excessive aquatic plant growth, and this can deplete oxygen and lead to things like fish kills and other harmful things to the aquatic ecosystem. And then also chlorides, which would be from dissolved salts. Winter roadway practices, roadway de-icing, and water softening contributes excessive chlorides to our water bodies in the state of Illinois. And high levels of chlorides can be toxic to aquatic ecosystems. And the village is implementing BMPs, or best management practices, to be protective as practicable on these 2 water quality issues. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions that the council, the board might have.
Trustees? Crickets. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are required to approve. Mr. Janik, what do we do with this?
There's nothing to do.
Just a report.
That was educational, that's required every 2 years to have that done. And so it's just information for the board as well as a requirement of the MS4 program.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Official communications.
Me?
Me? Quiet, how could I refuse?
Okay. If you don't know, tomorrow is Election Day, and a reminder tomorrow, the polls are open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you have not registered to vote, it's not too late to cast your ballot. Residents who are not registered to vote may register and cast a ballot on Election Day, thanks to same-day registration and voting. Those who wish to register on Election Day must present 2 qualifying forms of ID. To locate your polling place, please visit www.cookcountyclerk.com.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson.
You're welcome.
Trustee Kruger?
Thank you, President Horker. I just want to give a quick shout out to the Wheeling Fire Department Local 3079 for their St. Baldrick's event that was held on Saturday at White Eagle, which was a new venue. And when I arrived and saw how many people were there, I was really pleased to see how well attended it was and how many bald heads were there. So it's such a great cause. And yep, right there, Chief McGreal. I'll rub your head later. But no, I just want to thank you guys and for welcoming me, and I got the official shirt and paid well over asking price for it because it's such a good cause. So thanks a lot. And everybody should vote tomorrow.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Nothing. Trustee Papantos.
Thank you. Just to set the record straight, I, for one, and I can't speak for the whole board, do supervise Manager Sfondilis. We know that he works a 24/7 job, okay? I am really tired of the babbling that goes on. He does his job, he does it well. Proof of the fact is, we are in an RDA with PACE. They are doing remarkable things. It is a win-win situation for this town and PACE that needed a new area. Look at Town Center and how that project has been managed. You know, a lot of credit goes to staff, and staff reports to our village manager. He does his job, he does it well. I know of no CEO, I know of no director who punches a time clock. You know, it's time to move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Vito.
I don't really have anything to say other than you heard don't put fertilizer in Buffalo Creek, so chill on the Monsanto up there at your farm. That's all I had to say.
Uneducated. It's a separate issue.
I'm kidding. No, I have nothing to say other than
Okay.
go vote tomorrow, that's all.
Monsanto.
Do you use Monsanto? I don't even know what it is.
Monsanto makes seed.
Oh.
They make chemicals. They make relax.
All right, then. My joke fell flat.
I laughed. Anyway,
Thanks.
That's a whole big subject. Touched a nerve there. Well, no, there's just so much. So, did you have something?
I'd just like to
Not
say.
Monsanto?
No, not about Monsanto, but if you want to start talking about that, no. I want to say also about our manager, John Sfondulis. I have 100% faith in him, and I feel good being up here because of him. He really moves things through, and he is working all the time. I don't know how people can say he's not. I see him when I drive by, still in the office. But that's besides the point. You're on the phone. You're doing work all day. And the work he's doing is fantastic work in this town. It really is. It makes a big difference. And he manages a great staff, and it makes all the difference in the world with this town. So, thank you, John. I 100% faith in you.
Thank you.
I feel like I should say something. Thank you all for your support. To the public, the information that you continue to hear on a weekly basis would take too long to refute publicly, nor do I think it really is the venue to do so. The people at this dais and the people at that table all know my work ethic. I probably drive them crazy. I work every day from 7 a.m., whether I'm in my office, whether I'm at a meeting, or whether I'm at home. It doesn't matter. I appreciate all the kind words. As far as the outsourcing goes, again, some of the information presented is a patchwork of fact put together in order to create its own story. But again, this is not the venue to go into that. The board is well aware of the situations that led to those contracts, and they were appropriate, and I stand by them. And thank you for your kind words.
Thank you, Mr. Spondilis. If there are no other, Mr. Ferrolo.
I have no further comments.
Not that easy. Whose idea was the release of the evidence? Who
Relating to the case,
key card swipes? How did that date come about?
I will let Attorney Merluzzi handle that, as she appeared in court for us, and she will give you all the details.
How did the date come about?
The date came about because we had depositions already scheduled for April 2nd, and the judge and Mr. Kraft's counsel agreed that April 2nd would be an appropriate date to provide the records. No delay was requested at all.
Thank you,
It just
Ms.
happened
Pelosi.
to be when we were already all going to be together.
Thank you. So,
So out of efficiency.
So to make it clear, the requester of the reports agreed with that date.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not like we forced it down anybody's throat. They went along with it 100%.
Not to belabor this, but I think it's also important to say that the case has nothing to do with the information.
Right.
The case is going to say that I come in whenever I use the swipe cards, which is not every day, because that is not the only way to get in the building, that I work from 7 in the morning until 9:30 from home. Then I come in. There's nothing to hide. There it is. There's the big mystery. I work from 7 in the morning until 7 at night. Some of it's at home. This has nothing to do with the information on the key cards. It has to do with records and whether or not they are public records or not. It's not about the information, it's about the type of information. And that's what the lawsuit was about.
not as fun a story. Not as fun a story.
It's not as fun a story.
Oh, well.
But I would love to just work 8 hours a day if anybody would like to sign off on that.
You and me both. I'll do that.
No?
So if there's nothing else, we still have the bills to approve for March 14th till the 27th of 2019. Unless there's any questions about them, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Vogel, second Trustee Papantos. Roll call, please.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Harker?
Yes, that concludes the business for this evening. Go out and vote. Be polite, everybody. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Krueger. I'll give the second to Trustee Vito. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Good night, everybody. Go out and vote. Monsanto makes seed, Monsanto makes chemicals.